about my daughter.
Most mafia stories introduce you to men who are already on top. They hand you a tailored suit, a fast car, a glass of scotch, and tell you to enjoy the fantasy. Mafia, the old country, does the opposite. It begins in the last place you'd expect a criminal empire to take root, deep inside a collapsing sulfur mine. You play as Enzo, not a maidman, but a Caruso, a mine boy with nothing to his name, buried beneath Sicily. Before you have even settled into the controls, your friend is dead. You're choking on smoke, and you're thrown straight into a knife duel with a man who made your life miserable. The game doesn't tell you Enzo earned his place. It lets you earn it with him. That's a feeling that stayed with me all the way to the credits. After Don Torresi takes Enzo in, everything starts from the bottom. Small jobs become bigger jobs. Trust slowly turns into responsibility. And responsibility turns into loyalty. Nothing feels skipped. Every mission is another brick in the foundation. To see how much friction this world actually had, I locked the difficulty into classic from the start. Not to prove a point, just to see what changed. And what I found is that classic isn't interested in making every encounter miserable. It's interested in making careless decisions expensive. The first system that teaches you this is the gunplay. Hangar 13 isn't reinventing the third-person cover shooter here, but on classic, cover stops being optional. It becomes part of the rhythm. The enemy counts feel fair, never overwhelming, but they demand real situational awareness. The moment I got tunnel vision on the rifleman in front of me, someone from a completely different angle ended the fight before I even knew they were there. At first, I blamed the game. Then I realized, no, I was just the problem. What surprised me the most is that classic never crosses into frustration. Checkpoints are generous, healing is usually there if you look for it, and ammo is never so scarce that you're afraid to use it. Every death felt like a lesson, not a punishment. And there's a real difference between those two things. Somewhere around the middle of the game, I noticed I had stopped kicking the doors open. Not because the game forced me to, but because stealth simply made more sense. Quietly thinning out a patrol usually meant avoiding a much bigger firefight later. On Classic, that wasn't just safer, it was smarter. The game never demands a specific playstyle, it just rewards patience over recklessness. Even when your companions occasionally forget they are supposed to be helping you at all. As Enzo climbs the ranks, the world opens up. And this is where the game's atmosphere really shines. Sweeping vistas, crowded markets, busy streets full of people who feel like they exist whether you are watching or not. Even Enzo's movements reflect that same grounded philosophy. Outside of the odd rooftop chase, he's not pulling off action movie stunts. He's heavy, restrained, believable, and because he is, the world around him believes believable too. And that brings me to my favorite part of the entire game, the driving. I somehow won the first horse race on my very first attempt. Then the game handed me a car, and that confidence disappeared fast. It took several tries before I got the high-speed race right, and honestly, I enjoyed every single second of it. These cars have real weight. You feel it in every brake, every corner, every moment the car clearly doesn't want to do what you're asking. The game isn't trying to make you feel like an expert driver. It's just asking you to respect the machine you are sitting in. Once I started doing that, driving became one of the genuine highlights of the whole experience. Mission design is where I am torn. When the game wants to surprise you, it absolutely can. Horse races, car chases, stealth runs, assassinations, protecting fellow mafioso through enemy territory. Those are the moments that stuck with me. But between those highlights, a familiar pattern kept showing up. Go here, find this person, kill them, drive back, rinse and repeat. The atmosphere and story carry it well enough that it never became boring, but I definitely wished the game surprised me a little more often. Ironically, the mechanic I expected to struggle with the most turned out to be the easiest. I didn't die in a single knife duel my entire playthrough. Button mashing isn't an option. You have to wait for your opening. But once you find the rhythm, the parry and dodge windows are wide and predictable. It's a fascinating design anomaly for a mode called Classic. It's the one system that simply forgets to sweat the player. The gunfights remain the real test throughout.
Let him fall! Not to go through me! Reloading!
By the time Enzo's story reached its conclusion, I felt satisfied. Although a little disheartened, but satisfied nonetheless. Which is exactly why the final playable section as Isabella felt slightly unnecessary. Not because it's poorly made, the emotional goodbye had already happened. Everything after that plays more like an epilogue than a finale. Or maybe a setup for the DLC. But that's not what stays with you when the credits roll. I remember climbing out of that mine, earning Don Torrisi's trust. The quiet, deliberate drives throughout Sicily. The horse races. The tense shootouts where slowing down was almost the right call. Mafia, the old country, doesn't constantly reinvent itself. It doesn't need to. It refines what it already does well. The mission structure gets repetitive, the knife combat never fully evolves, and I wish enemy variety pushed further on Classic. But none of that is enough to overshadow everything else it gets right. If you want memorable set pieces, driving that respects your patience, grounded combat, a beautiful old Italy, and a story built on loyalty and ambition, this journey deserves your attention. Not because it's perfect, but because, just like Enzo, it earns its place.